We continue now at the top of Daf Zayin Amud Beis in Meseches Pesachim. This is Pesachim Daf 27b. The Gemara just said, according to one Amora, that within Rebbe's opinion, the only time the pas is going to be usher, let's say you light the oven with the wood of orla or wood of kilayim, that's usher b'hana. The only time the bread is usher is if the flame is directly underneath the bread. So the Gemara says, Mechlal de Rabbanan de Pligiola. That would imply, according to this Amora, that the Rabbanan who argue and Rebbe and say that the bread is mutter, sharu afilu kishavuka kenegdo. They're going to allow it even when the flame is directly by the bread. Elo eitzim di sura l'Rabbanan hechem ashkachaslu. So if that's the case, this wood which is asur b'hana, what exactly can't you do with this wood? If you're allowed to take this wood, directly light a fire and bake bread, what does the isur hana mean practically? What can't you do? Amar Ravami Bar Chama, so Ravami Bar Chama answers, Bishar Shifa, you're not allowed to make a sharshifa out of this wood. Rashi says, Bishar Shifa, Kisei Leishev Olav, meaning you can't use this wood to make a chair to sit on, or Lahadom Raglav, or to put your feet on, Dahana Osam Kashain Bain, then you're directly getting benefit from the wood. V'al Yedei Mamish, then you're directly getting benefit through this thing. Avol Hanoas Hesek, but if you're just going to burn the wood, Ein Hanoaso El Achar Biuro, the real Hana comes after you light it, or Bishas Biuro, while you're lighting it, so that's already different. There the Rabbanan say it's going to be okay. Rami Bar Chama asked the following question of Rav Chisda. Tanur sheisiku ba'atzei hektish. Let's say you have an oven and you light it with wood from hektish. V'yafavo esapas, and you use it to bake bread. L'Rabbanan desharu b'kamaisa mai. According to the Rabbanan who allowed it by orla, which was again asur b'hana, you light the fire and you're allowed to have the bread. What would be when you're using not wood of orla but wood of hektish? So he answered, Amar Le, he said to him, Apas asura. The bread is going to be asur. So he said, Uma bein zula arla. So what's the difference between hektish and arla? Why are we more strict by hektish? So the Gemara says, Amar Rava. Rava says, Hachi ashta. What kind of comparison is it? Arla betela b'masayim. Arla in general is batel in 200. Hektish afilu be'elef lo batel. Hektish you never have nullification. Even 1,000 times the amount is not going to create bittul. Rashi says, B'teila v'masayim, it's batel in 200. Hilkach lo chamira mishakala v'nivar isuro. Therefore, it's not going to be strict when it's already been burned and the yisr has been consumed. That's similar to being batel b'masayim. That's similar to being nullified. It's not a problem. But hektish, where there's no bittul, it's going to be a problem. Elomar Rava, rather Rava said, Ikasha le hakasha. If there was any difficulty with this halacha that when you burn the atzei hektish, it's going to be a problem, the following is difficult. V'halomal hamasik. Didn't the person who lit the fire do me'ilah? V'chol hecha demal hamasik. And the rule is when a person does me'ilah, nafkulu l'chulin, the object actually becomes chulin, and it shouldn't be asur at all. Rashi over here says, V'halomal hamasik v'chayev karbon. The person did me'ilah who lit the fire, and he's chayev to bring a carbon me'ilah. V'chol davar she'ein bo kedushas haguf. And anything that's not kedushas haguf, meaning it's not like a carbon, it's hektish but not a carbon. Kagon, for example, behemo she'eina shel carbon. Let's say you have an animal that was donated, the value of the animal, it's donated to the Beis HaMikdash. The Beis HaMikdash can sell the animal, use the money to fix things. You have a situation like that, that's not called Kedushas Haguf, it's called Kedushas Damim, Ukli She'eno Kli Shares. Let's say you have a vessel, again, that was made hektish, but it's not a Kli that's used to serve in the Beis HaMikdash. So the rule is by those items, Kevan Shamal Bo, if you use it for personal use, which is Me'ilah, Yatza L'chulin, the rule is it becomes Chulin. Tetzanan Ein Moel Achar Moel B'Mukdashin, Ela Behema Ukli Shares Bilvad. That's why we say you can only do Me'ilah repeatedly by something that is Kedushas Haguf. Avol Kol Midi Achrina, but anything else, Me'ilah Rishona, Nafka L'chulin, after the first Me'ilah it already becomes Chulin. The Kaimalan Ein Me'ilah B'chol Makam Ela Shinoi, Sheneshtana Miktusha, so you're changing it from its Kedusha. So therefore, that was the question. V'amai Pas Asura, why should the bread be Asur? HaKodim Sheninu HaPas, Haya Hesek Chulin. Before the bread even gets there, the whole fire is going to be Chulin. So how is it that it's going to be a problem at all? That really was the kasha. And the answer to that is, Omer Rapapa says, Hacha ba'atzei shlomim askinon. Here we're talking about wood from shlomim. Ve'aliba de Rabbi Yehuda de Amar hektish b'shogeg mischalel b'mezid eno mischalel. And it follows Rabbi Yehuda's opinion. Rabbi Yehuda's opinion in general is that if you have hektish that you do me'ilah b'shogeg, that creates chilul. In that case it becomes chulin. But b'mezid it does not become chulin. And what's the logic of that? B'mezid my time will law, why in a case of Mazid is it not chulin? Kevan delav bar me'ilahu lo nafik l'chulin. Because when you do b'mezid, that's not really me'ilah, so it doesn't become chulin. So shlamim nami, so when it comes to shlamim as well, kevan delav bar me'ilah ninu, since it's not under the category of me'ilah, lo nafka l'chulin. It's not going to become chulin, and Rashi will explain all of this. Ba'atse shlamim, the case is wood of a shlamim. What does it mean, wood of a shlamim? She'tfisan lidmei shlamim. You took this wood and you said, I want this designated, so that you sell it and use the value to buy a carbon shlamim. L'mochran v'likach b'dmei shlamim. I want you to sell this wood. He's dedicating it to the Beis HaMikdash. They can sell the wood and specifically use that money to buy an animal for a carbon shlamim. And the point really is v'kadshim kalim ein lahem me'ilah. The real point of shlamim is that the rule is kadshim kalim. There's no me'ilah. Shlamim is a kadshim kalim. To lav kadshe Hashem karina be. That's not really called of Hashem, Kadshe Hashem, Shekulan Labailam. It goes to the owners. Ve'in legavoa behen ela la'achas rikas damim. From the carbon shlam, it only goes to the mizbeach after you do the zrika, esvayimur, and then you take the limbs and you burn it on the mizbeach after you sprinkle the blood. V'isura mi rechiva alayim. Now, even though there's no me'ilah, there's an isser to use it. Umi me'ilahu de imiti b'meseches mila. It's just excluded from me'ilah. V'aliba de Rabbi Yehuda pashat le Rav Chisda. And this answer, as we just said in the Gemara, follows Rabbi Yehuda's opinion. B'kiddushin perak beis do amar hektish b'mezid ein mischalel. Rabbi Yehuda happens to hold that if you do b'mezid me'ilah, or you use hektish b'mezid, it doesn't go to chulin. Imnena mimenu b'mezid lo yatzel chulin. If you get hana, if you get benefit b'mezid, it doesn't go to chulin because it's not me'ilah in that case. So hilkach b'shlamim shogeg didhu k'mezid de hektish. The point is, by shlamim, even by mistake, it's going to be as if you did it b'mezid because it's not to halab b'nei me'ilah. Because again, shlam is lab bar me'ilah. Shlamim always is the same as when you do it b'mezid. In both cases, it's lav bar me'ilah. Now, Rashi points out, the Gemara also could have answered that our case is when you do it b'mezid. If you do it b'mezid, it's not going to be me'ilah, it's not going to go l'chulin, and then you're going to have a problem with the bread. You could have answered that. However, the word hisiku implies it was lit either b'shogeg or b'mezid. So to limit it to b'mezid wasn't a great answer. Since you can have this better answer of shlamim, which doesn't matter if it's shogeg or mezid, that's a better answer. So that's the answer that we go with. So the Gemara now asks, is it really true that anytime the person lighting the fire does me'ilah, the thing becomes chulin? But we learned in a brayso, kol hanisrafin afron mutter, anything that needs to be burned. This is in Tamura. They have a list of items that must be burned and a list of items that must be buried. So the brayso is saying anything in the list that requires burning, the ashes are actually mutter. Chutz me'atze ashera, except for wood of an ashera tree that needs to be burned, the ashes are not mutter. Ve'efer hektish liolam aser, and also the ashes of hektish are also always aser. Now, why is the language different? Why does it say atze ashera? And then it says Efer Hektish is always. Why does it say always by Efer Hektish and by Atzei Asher it doesn't say always? Rashi points out the Efer Hektish li'olam aser lahachi nakat gabe Hektish li'olam vegabe Asher lo nakat li'olam. The reason why by Hektish we say for always and by Asher we don't say always mishum the Asher yesh laheter, because the truth is by the Asher tree there is one situation where it would be mutter. Im sarfa ovde gililim uvatla. Let's say an idol worshipper burned it and he nullified it. Aval Hektish ein bo bittel. By Hektish you don't have any nullification. This is explained at the end of Tmura. Fine. In any case, you see here exceptions. You see by Atzei Asherah, by Efer Hektish, and that's our case over here. Is Hektish really is what we're focusing on. By Hektish, it's always Aser. But didn't we say that when you burn Hektish, if you do Me'ilah, it becomes Chulin? So it's not always Aser. The Efer should be fine. So the Gemara answers, Amar Rami Bar Chama. Rami Bar Chama answers, Kagon shenafla deleka me'eleha be'atzei hektish. Well, the case we're talking about here, where it's aser, is if the fire happened on its own by the wood of hektish. Deleka inish denimel. There was no person who did me'ilah. If you have me'ilah, you're right. Then it actually goes lechulin. That's true. But if it happened on its own, the fire, so there was no me'ilah, so then obviously it's not going to go lechulin. It's going to be a problem. Rav Shemaya Rav Shemaya gives a different answer. Ba'osan shetu'unin geniza. We're talking specifically about the Trumas Hadeshin. Those were the ashes that you placed by the Mizbeach after the Avodah was done, and then they got absorbed in that area next to the Mizbeach. So that's geniza. Those require you, so to speak, stored away. The Tanya, we learned in a brayso of Vesamo benachas. You have to place the ashes of the Trumas Hadeshin in a pleasant manner. Vesamo V'shamo kulo, you have to place it all over there. V'samo shelo yefazer, and you have to place it in a way that doesn't scatter. And Rashi over here explains, but also efer shaton ganiza ka'amar liolam aser. We're only talking about the ashes of the Trumas Hadeshin, that it's aser. V'zeu efer shel Trumas Hadeshin, shelo haisam me'ila b'haseko. There is no me'ila by the ashes of the Trumas Hadeshin, and therefore that's where we were saying it's aser. But in a normal situation of Atzei Hektish that's not Trumas Hadeshin, if there would be me'ila, it would go l'chulin, and the ashes would not be aser. And the Gemara continues that the two dots, Rabbi Yehuda Omer ein bior v'chulu. Rabbi Yehuda's position is the way to burn, to destroy chametz properly is to burn it. Tanya, we learned in a brayso, Amar Rabbi Yehuda says, ein bior chametz el sreifa. The proper way to destroy chametz is by burning. V'adin noser, and we can make the following lima to prove that that is true. Uman noser she'enu beval yero bal yimatze. If noser, where there's no prohibition to see or find noser, that's a carbon that was left over past its proper time. Ton sreifa requires burning. Chametz sheyeshno beval yero bal yimatze. Chametz where there is a prohibition of bal yero bal yimatze. Lo kol shekein sheton sreifa. Certainly it should require being burned. So Amrulo, so the Chacham said back to Rabbi Yehuda, called in Shatadon Tchilaso Lahachmir, Vesofo Lahakal. If you're going to make a Kal V'chomer, but in the end it leads to a leniency, Eino Din, that's not a good Kal V'chomer. Why is this a leniency? Lo Matzo Eitzim L'Sarfo. If this guy doesn't find any wood to burn it, Yehayoshev Uvato, then he's going to sit there and not have to do anything. V'atorah Amra Tashbisu Sormi Batechem. But the Torah says you do need to destroy it. B'chol Davar Shata Yachol Ashbiso, any way that you can destroy it. So the point of the Chachamim is you can't make a Kal V'chomer that leads to a leniency. So Chazer Rabbi Yehuda v'dano din acher. So Rabbi Yehuda came and instead of doing a kal v'chomer, he learned in a different manner, not through a kal v'chomer. Noser aser ba'achila. Noser is forbidden to eat. V'chametz aser ba'achila. Chametz is also forbidden to eat. So they're equal. Ma noser b'sreifa, just like noser you have to burn it. Av chametz b'sreifa. So to chametz you have to burn it. Amrulo, they said to him, nevela tochiach, to prove the other way from nevela. Sha'asura ba'achila, you can't eat a nevela. Ve'ena tuna sreifa, but it doesn't need to be burnt. Amar lehen, he said to them, hefresh noser. Noser is different. Aser ba'achila uvahana, because it's not only aser to eat, it's aser to get benefit. The chametz aser ba'achila uvahana, and chametz is aser to eat and get benefit. Ma noser ton sreifa, just like noser you need to burn it. Af chametz ton sreifa, so to chametz you need to burn it. Amrulo, they said to him, shor haniskol yochiach. We can prove from shor haniskol the other way. Again, a shor that needs to be stoned, an axe that needs to be stoned. Sha'aser ba'achila uvahana, you can't eat it, you can't get any benefit. Ve'eno ton sreifa, but you don't have to burn it. Amar Leni said to them, hefresh noser, no noser is still different. Aser ba'achila uvahana v'anish kares, because noser, it's aser to eat it, aser to get benefit, and it gets kares. The chametz aser ba'achila v'hana v'anish kares. Similarly, chametz is aser to eat, to get benefit, and it gets kares. Ma noser b'sreifa, just like noser gets burned. Av chametz b'sreifa, so to chametz you have to burn. Amrulo, they said to him, chelbo shel shor haniskal yochiach. The chelev, the prohibited fat of the shor haniskal, it should prove the other way. She'aser ba'achila uvahana v'anish kares, because that is prohibited in achila, in hana, and it gets kares. V'yein ton sreifa, and it does not require sreifa. And we'll continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf Chav Ches Amud Aleph.